الحمد لله العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي أما بعد. So Alhamdulillah, today still I have the opportunity to join this short course in fiqh, Usul al-Fiqh. So last week actually I couldn't join the class session because I have matters to attend to. But I actually has request my dear colleague, Dr. Said Mohsin, to replace me, in which I believe he actually has given lecture on Imam Shafi'i and his Risalah, his book of Risalah. So today we're going to continue with the next topic, which is Mabahith al-Hukum. Okay, so today this topic actually is quite a long one, but for this short course, actually I have compressed this topic, okay, into one slide, and under this Mabahith Hukum, actually we have like 4 subtopics. Usually, one subtopic will actually require me to give lecture around 1.5 hours. Okay, 1 hour and a half. Okay, but for this short course, I try my best to shorten it, and inshallah, I will try my best to touch all the important things in this topic. So let's dive straight away. Bismillah. Okay, Islamic. Okay, Mabahith al-Hukum. So these are the subtopics that we're gonna touch today. Firstly, we have Al-Hakim, okay, which is the lawgiver, the true source from which the law originates, okay. Number 2, we have Al-Mahkum Fi, the act on which the hukum operates. Number 3, we have Mahkum Alayh, okay, subject, okay, this subject or legal person for whom conduct the hukum is stipulated. And finally, we have Al-Hukum, the ruling itself, okay. So we're gonna discuss this 4 subtopic one by one after this, inshallah. Okay, next. Okay, Al-Hakim. Al-Hakim here refers to Allah Almighty, to whom the hukum originates. His will and command is known to the Mukallaf either directly through divine revelation, through holy scriptures, or indirectly by means of inference, deduction, and ijtihad. Okay, so only Allah actually have the privilege to actually legislate laws or revelation. Okay, the prerogative of command belongs to God alone. Okay, Allah said in the Quran Al-Karim, "Inna al-hukma illa lillah." Okay, the hukum belongs to Allah alone. Okay, so Allah actually again can actually legislate law or reveal law to humankind. Okay, so continue. Next. The majority of jurists agree that lawgiver lays down laws in the interest of man. Okay, so yes, majority of scholars actually they unanimously agree that whenever Allah actually lays down laws, it is actually for our benefit, for our interest as human being. But is man free to determine his own interest, or is it predetermined by the lawgiver? Okay. A theological question arises as to how men can know that something is good, which they should do it, or bad, that they should avoid it. Okay, so this is the question. Okay, so the jurists are in disagreement of the way in which the will or the hukum of the lawgiver regarding the conduct of mukallaf is to be known or identified. So right now, we're going to look into the differences of opinion between these scholars on this issue, on this theological question. Okay, let's see together. Okay, so here, whether, the value of good or bad, right or wrong, okay, can be known actually only by revelation alone, or we could also actually know by using our human rationale. Okay. So let's see. Okay, actually here we have 3. Okay, firstly, with oh sorry, subhanallah. Okay, firstly, in your left side we have the Ash'aris. Okay, the Ash'aris. Okay. And in the middle one, we're going to have the Mu'tazilis, And the last one, we're going to have the Maturidis and Hanafis. Okay, so let's look at the first one. So according to Ash'aris, or the majority of scholars, the laws of Allah can be discovered through revelation alone. Okay, only actually by revelation, the laws of Allah can actually be communicated to human being. Okay, it is not possible for human intellect to determine what is good and evil in the conduct of mukallaf without divine guidance, because human reasoning and judgment are liable to, error. Okay, right and wrong are not determined by reference to the nature of things or our perception, but it's actually determined by God. Okay, not by by our perception, what is good, what is right. I mean, what is good, what is bad, or what is right, what is wrong. Okay, it is actually determined by Allah only. So what is the legal effect from this opinion? So a man is not required to do something or to avoid doing it unless the law has been communicated to him in advance. Okay, no one is either rewarded for an act or punished for an omission unless he knows its status by means of clear communication. So this is, the legal effect of this opinion. So if, let's say, the man actually didn't actually receive any revelation, then he cannot be rewarded or cannot be punished. Okay, Allah said in Quran al-Karim, وَمَا كُنَّا مُعَذِّبِينَ حَتَّى نَبْعَثَ رَسُولًا, and we never punish until we send a messenger. Okay, so that is what we call as the justice of Allah, where Allah will actually never punish human being until Allah send a messenger to give the teaching, warning, and whatnot. Okay, this is the first group. Number two, we have the group of Mu'tazilis. Okay, Mu'tazilites. Mu'tazilite agreed with the majority of scholars, okay, that the source of law is from Allah. Okay, so they agree on this point, but they actually disagree on this latter point, which is they disagree with them, with the majority of scholars, about the identification and discovery of these laws prior to revelation. So this is where Mu'tazilites actually differ from the Ash'aris and majority of scholars. So according to Mu'tazilis, human intellect can identify the law of God regarding the conduct of mukallaf, even without the mediation of scriptures or messengers. So this is, the opinion of Mu'tazilis. Okay, they said our human mind actually capable of determining, okay, what is, good or bad, right or wrong, without the mediation from the scripture or messengers. The aql can identify the good and evil in human conduct by reference to its benefit and harm. Okay, this is because God only asks the mukallaf to do what is beneficial and forbid a human being from doing what is harmful. Okay, of course, this is, in ways it makes sense. Okay, because whenever Allah requires us to do something, it is actually for the benefit of human being. Okay, but and then whenever Allah actually forbid us from doing something, it is actually for because that thing is actually harmful to us. Okay, so this is the opinion of Mu'tazilis. So what is the legal effect from this opinion? The person who has received no communication from the lawgiver can still be considered mukallaf and will be held responsible on the basis of reason, alone. Thus, he or she will be rewarded or punished accordingly. Okay, so following this theory, this opinion, if let's say, there is no revelation, there is no messenger, then people can still be rewarded and still be punished based on the, human reason alone. This is the opinion of Mu'tazilis. And finally, we have Maturidis and Hanafis. The Maturidis and Hanafis suggested a middle course. Okay, so they actually take a middle course. Right and wrong in conduct of mukallaf can indeed, according to this third group, can be ascertained and evaluated by human intellect. Okay, but the law of God in regard to such conduct is not always identical with dictates of aql. For human intellect is liable to error. Yes, because sometimes what is actually good to human being it is actually not good according to Allah. So this is what actually has been said by the Hanafis and Maturidis. The knowledge of right and wrong, or reward and punishment must be based on divine communication. Okay, so there must be revelation from Allah. And the effect from this, opinion or theory, the person who has received no communication from lawgiver cannot be considered mukallaf and cannot be held responsible on the basis of reason alone. Okay, so the fact that human man can actually know what is actually good, what is bad, actually doesn't constitute a suffice basis, okay, to punish or to reward human being, because there must be, revelation from God. Thus, he or she will neither be rewarded for an action or be punished for an omission unless there is clear communication from the God. Okay, so these are the three, group, okay, or three opinion, okay, in related to the issue whether or not we human being has the capacity and capability to know what is good, what is bad, what is right, what is wrong. Okay, so let's move to the next slide. Okay, now mahkum fi. Okay, number 2, subtopic number 2, meaning the act, rights and obligation of the mukallaf, which constitute the subject matter of command or permissibility. Okay, so this is the meaning. This is because all command and prohibition are concerned with the act and conduct of mukallaf. Yes, so when we talk about this mahkum fi, it only concerned with the conduct of human being. Okay, act and conduct of human being. Okay, so condition. An act, okay, whether it is commission, whether it is omission, is regarded as subject matter of the hukum, taklif, when it fulfills the following condition. Okay, so this is the condition that must be fulfilled. Let's see. Okay, firstly, A and B, we have two condition here. A, its nature must be made known to the mukallaf, like knowing prayer is obligatory. First and foremost, the nature of command must be actually made known to the mukallaf. Okay, if let's say we doesn't know what is the nature, then how could we actually perform it? Okay, there's no obligation to perform an unknown or uncertain act. The reason is that the subject has to conceive the act in his mind first, okay, and usually formulate an intention for its performance. Yes. So if let's say we want to do something, of course we have to actually conceive in our mind first. Okay, we think about it first, and then after that we will actually formulate intention to perform such act. If let's say we doesn't know what is the nature, we actually not sure what kind of act we should do, then it is actually not valid one. Okay, so nature must be made known to mukallaf. Okay, the knowledge about the required act here implies either actual knowledge or at least potential knowledge. Okay, so here we have two types of knowledge. Okay, first actual knowledge, and number 2 is potential knowledge. So basically, actual knowledge is the mukallaf should either be aware of the nature of the act. Okay, he aware of the nature of the act, and this can be achieved simply by his existence within the Islamic territory. It is suffice. Say that if let's say he stay in the Islamic territory, then it is actually suffice to say that he has the actual knowledge. Okay. Number 2, potential knowledge. The mukallaf should be in the position to find out about it directly or indirectly. Okay, basically, this person actually is actually in the place or position where he actually can ask about this, this knowledge directly or indirectly. Okay. B, okay, the condition number 2, the act must be within the capability of the doer. Okay, in the case of prohibition, be within his capability to avoid, as no one is expected to do the impossible. Yes. Okay, so when you talk about this, obligation, it must be within the capability of human being. Okay. This condition actually is split up into 2 sub-conditions. Okay, firstly, there is no obligation to perform an impossible act. Yes, okay. The purpose of creating and obligation is to command the obedience of the mukallaf. Okay, if he or she is not able to perform the act, the creation of the obligation becomes futile. It actually defeats the purpose. It is pointless. Okay, so whenever Allah command us to do something, it will actually be within our capability to perform it. Okay, number two, the performance of the act should be dependent on the will of the mukallaf, include such acts that involve the mukallaf's inner emotion over which he have control. Yes, okay. So again, when you talk about this obligation, the performance of the obligation actually depend on the will of human being or the mukallaf. Okay. Some degrees of hardship involved in performing some obligatory act, okay, are regarded to be usual type and not of the impossible one. Okay, so of course, when Allah actually command us to do, certain things, okay, the ibadah, like the salah, zakah, fasting, sawm, al-hajj wal-umrah. Of course, there is, some degrees of hardship or difficulties in that, in a particular ibadah, but it is actually bearable. We can actually bear with that difficulties. Okay, and it is not the impossible one. Allah said in Quran, "La yukallifullahu nafsan illa wus'aha." Okay, God doesn't obligate living soul beyond the limit of his capacity. Yes. Okay, so whenever Allah actually command us to do something, it must be, usually will be within our capacity. Okay. Next. Okay, moving on to the rights. Okay, here we have type of rights. Okay, we have three type of right. Okay, firstly we have right of Allah. Number two, mix. Okay, right of Allah in individual, and number three, right of individual alone. Okay, let's see the first right of Allah. The right of Allah refers to the act which must be performed, and there is no choice for the mukallaf to ignore it. Okay, it also connotes what is done solely for the public benefit. Yes, this is the first one, right of Allah. Okay, so when we talk about right of Allah, it is usually for public benefit. Not for Allah actually. It is for our benefit. Rules that relate to the right of Allah alone. Okay, for example here, pure worship, like the pillars of Islam. Okay, we have like 5 pillars. Okay, the shahada, the salah, zakah, fasting, and hajj wal umrah. Okay, and number 2, pure punishment, only like hudud. Okay, of course we have several types of hudud punishment. Okay, hudud basically mean had limitation or boundaries. So we have like 5 or even 6. Okay, according to some scholars, like shurb al khamr, drinking liquor, qadhaf. Okay, when we kill someone for committing adultery without produce 4 witnesses. Okay, we have bugha, qata tariq, and so on. These are among the rights of Allah. And number 3, imperfect punishment, okay, uqubah qasira, okay, such as excluding a murderer from the inheritance of his victim. Okay, so this is also punishment, but it is the imperfect one. Okay, it is not perfect. Okay, because example here, we have the hadith where the Prophet said, "Man istajala qabla awanihi uqiba bihirmanihi." So if let's say someone tried to expedite something before its time, then he will be banned from that particular thing that he wished to pursue. Okay, so this is imperfect punishment, uqubah qasira. And number 4, we have worship in which there is an element of financial liability. Okay, like hajj and zakat al-fitr. Okay, hajj, of course, when we talk about hajj wal umrah, we have to pay the money, okay, to perform this ibadah. The same goes to the zakat al-fitr. Okay, of course, we have to pay some money. Okay, this is right of Allah alone. Number 2, we have mixed right of Allah and individual. So here we have 2 groups here, 2 types here. First, rules in which the right of Allah and right of individual lie side by side, but the right of Allah is predominant. Okay, so here is where right of Allah is predominant, like had al-qadhaf and had theft, had al-sariqah. Okay, so of course, when we talk about this, punishment of qadhaf and theft, okay, of course, there is, right of human being. Okay, like in qadha, when someone accuse others, a good person, to commit zina, for example. Of course, the reputation of that person actually is, being tainted with such bad accusation. Of course, his right actually has been, violated. But here, right of Allah is actually predominant here. The same goes to theft. Okay, of course, when person actually his item or property being stolen, okay, part of his right actually has been violated. But again, here, right of Allah is actually predominant. Okay, prevail here. Number two, we have rules in which the right of Allah and right of individual lie side by side, but right of individual is predominant. Okay, here the right of individual actually, predominant here. Prevail here. Example here, qisas, okay, or retaliation for bodily injuries or bodily harm. Yes, qisas actually, when someone kill others, okay, or someone actually hurt others, then if let's say A kill B, so the B who actually has been killed by A, his family members can actually claim, either to do the qisas, to kill back, or if let's say they don't want to claim for qisas, they can actually claim for diya, blood money, okay, which will actually amount to 200 camels. And and next there will be another option for the family members of the victim, which would be the forgiveness or pardon. So here, whether it is qisas, the kill back, or they want the diya, blood money, or they want to give full pardon or forgiveness, it is actually entirely depend on the victim. I don't know, family members of the victim, the family members. Okay, so here it is also right of Allah, but right of human or individual here is predominant. And number three, right of individual, exclusive right of individual here, for example, like paternity right. Okay, this is our exclusive right of human being. Then right to compensation for loss. Okay, if let's say someone actually loss, is a part of his property or something, he has the right to compensation. And purchaser's right to own the object that he has purchased, and vendor's right to own the price paid to him. Okay, these are among the exclusive right of individual. Okay, so next, okay, mahkum alayh. This is subtopic number 3. Taklif, okay, basically means one's qualification to acquire right and obligation and exercise them lawfully. Okay, so mukallaf, the person who's invoked a hukum or hukum requires him to act in a prescribed manner. Okay, the person who possesses legal capacity, whether he act directly or through delegated authority. Sometimes we can actually do it by ourselves, but sometimes we can actually ask the person to actually do on our behalf. Okay, when we delegate our power to someone else to do it for us. The person must firstly be able to understand the command of Allah, the communication that create the obligation. Okay, of course, there must be communication first, and comprehend the ground of his responsibility in order to become mukallaf. Yes. Okay, so before someone can become mukallaf, he must actually understand the command of Allah, and he also actually understand the responsibility. Okay, his responsibility. Let's move to the next slide. Okay, so here we went to the legal capacity ahliyah. Okay, legal capacity or ahliyah. Literally, it means absolute fitness or ability. Okay, and technically it means ability of fitness to acquire rights. Okay, to obtain right and to exercise this right. Okay, and ability to accept or obtain duties, and ability to perform these duties. Okay, so this is the ahliyah. Okay, based on the definition, there are two types of ahliyah or capacity. Firstly, ahliyatul wujub, and number two, ahliyatul ada. Okay, so فؤاد الوجوب is basically receptive legal capacity or the capacity for acquisition of right. Basically, الوجوب is the capacity to acquire rights. Okay, so the capacity for acquisition is the ability of the individual to receive right and obligation. This kind of capacity is acquired by the existence of life itself. Okay, so for this first, capacity, we actually acquire this capacity by existing, simply existing in this world. We have this capacity, ahlatul wujub. Okay, and number two, ahlatul ada, the capacity for execution of performance of duties and obligation. Okay, so the capacity for execution is the capacity that enables mukallaf to fulfill rights and discharge obligation, to effect valid acts and transaction, and to bear full responsibility toward God and his fellow human beings. Yes. So this is, the capacity number two, which is, it is basically the capacity which allow the mukallaf to fulfill right and discharge obligation. Okay, so we have two capacities here. Next, the basis of responsibility is only acquired upon attaining a certain level of intellectual maturity and competence. Okay, so when a person actually has, attained certain level of intellectual maturity and competence, then he will actually acquire this taklif, this responsibility. Only a person who understands his act and his word is competent to conclude a contract, discharge obligation, or be punished for violating the law. Yes. So if, let's say, a person cannot understand, his act, he can understand his act, what is the consequence from his act, what is the consequence from his word, then he is not a mukallaf, and he cannot be punished for violating the law. Okay, it's because to be punished by the law, someone actually must understand, can comprehend his act and the consequence from his act. Okay, as the taklif is based on the intelligence, capacity of understanding and discernment or judgment, which are hidden qualities. Okay, the law has linked personal responsibility with the attainment of age of maturity, bulugh, which is an obvious phenomenon. Okay, yes, when we talk about taklif, of course, it must be based on the hidden qualities, which is the intelligence, capacity of understanding. So when we talk about this, capability to understand, okay, it is actually, we cannot see it right away. If, let's say, I see a person, I cannot simply say, okay, I know he is, has this understanding and discernment, quality. Okay, because it is hidden qualities. So we need to actually observe this person whether or not he has this, capacity of understanding or not. Okay. And because of this, hidden qualities, usually this actually law actually has relate or link this with the attainment of age of maturity. So usually, okay, when someone actually has attained the age of bulugh, usually he will have this capacity of understanding. This is in usual case, but of course, there are certain cases where person who actually has attained the age of maturity, but he's still not mature enough. Okay, because sometimes people can actually suffer from insanity. People actually has what we call as the disability. It can become dumb person. Okay, it actually cannot understand like others people would understand. Okay, so this is the exceptional cases. Okay. However, it is the intellectual faculty of the individual rather than age which determines his legal capacity. Thus, an adult who is insane or asleep is not held responsible for his conduct. Okay, so yes, again, if let's say, like I mentioned to you just now, some people actually can be older, but he is not mature enough. He doesn't possess this, intellectual, these intellectual faculty that actually can understand okay, his act and the consequences from his act, okay. So this actually principle based on the hadith of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in which he said, رفع القلم عن ثلاث, okay, النائم حتى يستيقظ, الصبي حتى يبلغ, والمجنون حتى يفيق, okay. Pen is lifted from three persons: the one who is asleep until he wakes, the child until he attain puberty or bulugh, and the insane person until he regain sanity, until he become sane again. Okay. And for this, legal capacity, Muslim scholars really has divided into three types. Okay, let's see. These three types of legal capacity. Let's see. Okay, good. Firstly, we have, أهل الأداء قاصرة, and then wait. Yes, this one is first one is deficient capacity. Okay, number two we have little ada naqisa. Okay, it is imperfect one, and number three little ada kamila. Okay, let's see the first one. Deficient is a sign when the basis of legal capacity is not fully developed. Okay, such as child during infancy, or an insane person at any age. Okay, so for these two group of people, infant and insane person, they actually fall under this category, since neither is endowed with legal intellect, no legal consequences accrue from their words and act. Okay. So yes, okay, and they are not subject to punishment. And if let's say they commit, crime, they cannot be subject to any punishment because they cannot understand the consequence of their act or their word. Okay, but they will still be liable for their property if let's say they actually, they damage or destroy others' property. It's love, then. Their guardian should actually pay for the damages. Okay, good. And number two, the imperfect capacity is assigned in cases where the basis of capacity being human and possession of discretion are present. Okay, but all external attribute doesn't permit the validity of certain act. Okay, so what is the example of this group of people? Example here is discerning child, الصبي المميز. Okay, that is from 7 years of age to the age of bulugh, puberty. Or an idiot, whose intellect is defective and weak. Okay, they possess legal capacity which is incomplete and partial. Okay, so they possess legal capacity, but it is not complete. Okay, so this group of people, they capable of concluding acts and transaction for their benefit only. For their benefit only. So it is valid, such as they can actually accept gift, they can accept charity. Okay, but when it comes to give benefit to others, which is against their favor, they cannot do it. That actually is not valid. Okay, example there, such as giving gift to others, or making will, or even pronouncing divorce. Okay, it is invalid if it is coming out from them. And number three, transaction consists benefit and loss. Okay, so here is transaction which actually consists both benefit and loss. It is valid, but with the guardian's permission. Okay, and number three, Alatul Ada Kamilah. This is the complete capacity for execution. Complete capacity for execution is established when Mukallaf attains full mental development and acquires the ability to discriminate. Okay, to determine what is right, what is wrong. To differentiate between good and bad. Okay, this stage is associated with the external standard of puberty, bulugh, and the possession of rushd, maturity of action. Okay, every major person who has acquired this ability is presumed to possess capacity for execution, unless there is evidence opposing it. Okay, so these are the three types of legal capacity. Let's move to the next slide. Okay. Okay, we still have like 10 minutes. Okay, impediment of legal capacity. Okay, impediment of capacity. Those factors that prevent capacity for acquisition and capacity for execution from taking full effect. Okay, the jurists divide the cause of impeding capacity into two kinds. Okay, basically we have two type of impediment of capacity. Okay, let's see. The first one, natural causes, and number two, acquired causes. For natural causes, okay, among the natural causes are as follow. Firstly, minority. Okay, so we have minority, we have insanity, we have unconsciousness and forgetfulness. So the first one, minority, actually shorter that, acquisition and execution. For acquisition, minority, it will not give any effect because they can still obtain their right, and so no effect. But execution, so this is where their capacity will be impeded. Okay, so execution, they will not be liable for lack of aql. So this is minority. Number two, insanity. Okay, acquisition, again, no effect. It will not affect the acquisition capacity, but it will actually affect the execution. Again, for insane person, because they do not understand the consequence of their act, so they are not liable for any act they actually committed or they did. Again, for the lack of aql, for the lack of understanding. Number three, unconsciousness or sleeping. Someone actually fainted. Okay, who knows? So again, for acquisition, it doesn't affect their legal capacity, but for execution, it will affect temporarily. Okay, so it will affect this group person when they are unconscious or they are sleeping. Okay, so temporarily not liable for ibadat and not liable for punishment or transaction. If let's say someone actually sleeping, and when he actually moved in his sleeping and he falls on children, for example, and that child actually kill because he is a very big person, then he will not be liable because he is sleeping. Okay, and finally forgetfulness. Okay, no effect on the acquisition and execution, but the taklif will become operative when he or she remember. Okay, this is natural causes. And number two, we have acquired causes. Among the acquired causes are as follows: ignorance and mistake. It is basically it's our fault. Okay, we are the one who actually committed this. These causes, ignorance and mistake, no effect on acquisition and execution. Okay, so if let's say we do something, we have to bear the consequences. Okay, ignorance on the hukum or the law within Islamic country is not an excuse. If let's say we do something that violate, hukum al-shara'i in Islamic country, then we will be punished. There is no excuse. If let's say we doesn't know about it, there is no excuse. Number two, intoxication. Yes, intoxication basically when someone actually get intoxicated, it is because of his own behavior, his own action of drinking the liquor. So it doesn't affect the acquisition or execution. Okay, he will still be punished accordingly. And number three, caution. Okay, no effect on acquisition and execution. Okay, let's move to the next slide. Okay, this is the last slide for me. Wait. Good. So stages of human life, okay, vis-a-vis legal capacity. So this is just a chart to make you understand from our previous discussion. Okay, so here we have fetus, from fetus to birth, acquisition, incomplete. Okay, we have but incomplete. Execution, nil. We can actually execute anything. Okay, from fetus to birth. Number two, small child, okay, to mumayyiz. Okay, so acquisition is complete. We actually can acquire, many things, okay, during this stage, but we still cannot, execute the obligation. Okay, and number three, the third stage, from mumayyiz to maturity, here we have already actually have the complete acquisition of right, but when it comes to execution or discharging obligation, we can discharge something, but it is still incomplete, not complete yet. And finally, from maturity to death, from bulugh to death, here we have complete acquisition of right, and we have complete execution of obligation. Okay, so this is the stages of human life about the legal capacity. Okay. Hukum. Subhanallah. Hukum, we have hukum here. 5 more minutes. Okay, this is the last one. Okay, hukum derived from the root word of hakama, which literally means command and technically means rule. Okay, and this is the definition. خطب الله المتعلق بأفعال المكلفين بالاقتضاء والتأخير أو الوضع. Communication from Allah related to the act of the subject through demand, option, or through declaration. So it is concerned with the act of human being. Okay, let's see. So I will skip this part. Okay, you can read on your own. Okay, so basically we have these two type of hukum, taklifi and hukum wada'i. Okay, there are two type of demand. Okay, binding demand, like obligation and prohibition. Okay, so commission, like performing obligatory salah and fasting. This is binding demand. It is demand, it is binding. If let's say we do not perform it, we will actually be rewarded with sin. Okay, we will be sinful. Omission. Okay, again, this is demand to omit something, to not do something, and actually is binding on us, like committing zina. Okay, eating other property unjustly. If let's say we commit zina, then again will be sinful as well. And number two, we have non-binding demand. Okay, it is still demand, but it's not binding one. Example here, recommendation and disapproval. Okay, nadab, mandub, or makruh. Okay, for example, commission, performing nawafil salah. Okay, the salah before and after obligatory salah, there is ma'udi nawafil salah. It is recommended for us to performing this nawafil salah. And omission, it is actually good for us, to omit this, eating garlic or eating while resting on something. It is makruh. And finally, we have option or choice, where the commission or omission actually it is on our choice. Okay? It is up to us. Okay, for example, like act of seeking sustenance after Jumu'ah prayer. Okay, we have this, famous verse. فإذا قضيت الصلاة في يوم الجمعة فاسعوا إلى ذكر الله وذروا البيع. So this is basically choice. We can do it or we can leave it. Up to us. And we have hukum wada'i, declaratory hukum. We have sabab, sharat, and mani'. Sabab basically act which hukum taklifi is invoked, who is present, obligate hukum taklifi, and is absent, necessitate no obligation. For example, فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْ. The moon sighting, okay, before Ramadan. So if let's say someone actually witnesses the moon, then he has to fast. If let's say he still do not see the moon, then he don't have to fast yet. Okay. Number two, sharat, prerequisite whose absence necessitates the absence of hukum taklifi, but it present doesn't obligate such hukum, such as wudu. Okay, so for wudu, for example, wudu, if let's say you want to perform salah, you have to make ablution, yes. But if let's say when you have the wudu, it is not necessarily you have to perform salah. You can actually, recite Quran, or you can do other things. Okay, so this is sharat. In mana, condition of fact that prevent hukum from being applied, even if the cause found and condition is met. Okay, for example, like paying zakah. Okay, so if let's say when we want to pay the zakah, there's some condition like the nisab, okay, must be completed. The hawl must be complete as well. One whole year. So if let's say you have met this condition, you actually have to pay zakat. But if let's say you have this debt to others, so in this situation you have to pay debt first. Okay, only then you have to pay zakat. So this is when debt actually become obstacle to your obligation of zakat. Okay, next. Then we have a type of hukum azimah, the initial ruling, like we have to pray for rak'an, for Zuhr and Asr. But if let's say we are traveling, then we will have the rukhsah. exemption, where we can actually shorten 4 rakat to 2 rakat. Okay, so this is the rukhsah al-azim. Another example is consuming pork. Of course, it is prohibited in ordinary situation, but under necessity and duress, then one is permitted to consume this pork. Okay. Okay, I think that's it from me. Okay, so if let's